Hey guys, welcome to another Achieve More podcast. My name is Anthony. You can find me on YouTube at Picksburgh. It's also the video home of the Achieve More podcast. So if you want to come and see what we actually look like, that's where it is. You just like our voice, you can stay on Spotify or any of the other streaming services. But we also have other content on YouTube, such as videos where me and my fiance travel and go cool places. We just came back from Australia. So there's a series of vlogs over there from Australia. We actually get to pet some kangaroos. Spoiler alert. So there's a lot of cool stuff headed your way on the channel. Want to give a big shout out to Michael over at Huddle Card Collection, who's my co-host of this podcast. He wasn't able to make it here tonight, but he's with us in spirit, so we appreciate him. If you could go over to his YouTube channel and give him a follow as well. He does a live podcast on Wednesday evenings where he talks about sports cards and collectibles and cool stuff like that. So if you're into nerdy stuff like I am, go over to Huddle Card Collection and hang out with Michael. It's a live format, so you can actually talk to him and be a part of the show. So it's actually kind of cool. Without further ado, I'm really excited. We have a special guest with us today. We have an author, a business and law professor. We have Shermin Kruse. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I got to say, for those of you who just listen to this and don't watch it, first of all, I completely understand. Anthony has a very soothing tone, and so does Michael. I've listened to some of your podcasts, but y'all are missing out on the background photo of all of the sports memorabilia. Is that real? Is that actual memorabilia that you've collected, or is that just like a Zoom filter in the background?
This one is actually like no joke. It's a green screen, but actually behind me is actual cards just like it.
Oh my gosh.
So it's cleaner for the video. I just put up the green screen.
Right. Green screen slash accurate representation of Anthony's background. Massive numbers of cards.
And this is where I edit out the mess. Oh, and that.
Oh my gosh. Where's that?
There's just all kinds of random filters.
I love it. I love it.
On my computer.
Okay. So again, for those who didn't see, what popped up behind Anthony was, I think, a picture of a variety of graffiti walls. And Anthony, like you, I'm an adventure traveler. I just took my 4 kids to Colombia to jump off the Andes in paraglides. And they have the most incredible graffiti scene that I've seen in, I would say, anywhere that I've traveled to so far in Bogota. And yeah, really incredible.
Nice. So let me ask you a little bit about your upbringing. What was that like when you growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Tehran, Iran. So that's all the way in the Middle East. And I'm dating myself here, so you'll forgive me for this, but I was born in 1977. And for those of you who don't have a great timeline of the recent history of Iran, which of course I completely understand, the revolution, the Islamic Revolution, happened in 1979. And then the Iran-Iraq War launched in 1980. So I was born in 1977. So I was a toddler when the revolution happened and the war launched. So I grew up in the immediate aftermath of the Iranian Revolution and the violence of that, as well as the war and the violence of that. And that war got so bloody that there was about 1 million people who were killed. And to give you some idea, there was about 40 million people living in Iran at the time. So about 1 out of every 40 people was killed. And by the time we left, we were able to get out in 1988. By the time we left, there was up to 6 rocket attacks a day into Tehran, the city where I was living. So that was my upbringing. That was my childhood. And when I was 11, we were able to leave.
I can't even imagine what that would be like as a kid. Like you're a mother now. Like, could you imagine like your kid in that situation? Like, how did you cope with that?
Yeah. So, it's one of the incredible people in my life, who's my mother, who I give a lot of credit to, and also my father. I have to say both of them. They helped me a lot. And it's actually what ended up inspiring my book, Stoic Empathy, and the lifetime of study that I have given, and attention and notice and research that I've given to human nature and how we react and how we can cope and how we can control our emotions, but also how we can watch out for those more vulnerable than us, right? They knew, my parents, knew that if they behaved in a manner that reflected their trauma, that I would be traumatized. And so they couldn't lie about what was happening. An air raid is an air raid, right? A school closure is a school closure, a bread line is a bread line. And when you have to lie so much as we did growing up there, because we were under a very restrictive regime about who you are and what you do back home, you don't want to lie further to your kids at home. If anything, you want to be extra honest with them. Hey, you tell everybody outside the house that we don't drink alcohol, or hey, you tell everybody outside the house that we agree with this, that, and the other thing that we don't agree with. And their protection enabled me to really understand how their empathetic understanding of me allowed them to be in better control of their own emotional output. And now as a parent, I totally relate to that. There might not be missiles landing on my front yard or a morality police trying to arrest me on the street, but we've all been in that position as parents, and also, Anthony, as leaders, where we've got a team of people who are more vulnerable than us and bad news hit. And that bad news, it doesn't have to be a missile attack, right? Again, it could be we just lost a major client or a major vendor, or we caught a bad break, or there's a global pandemic. I don't know. Whatever it is that you and your team have to cope with, as the leader, it is your primary responsibility not to lie, but to manage the situation in a way that furthers the aims. And so I benefited a lot from the guidance that I was receiving as a child in those circumstances. And I've been able to essentially apply that same skill set to the boardroom and to my relationships as I've gotten older.
Wow, that's cool that you've been able to take even negative situations and kind of learn and kind of use them to help you in the future. Now, even back as a child, when you were going through those things, were you writing then too, or when
I
did you
was.
start? Okay.
I really started writing when I was 10,
Mhm.
and I began with poetry primarily,
Mhm.
and then essays. And I didn't graduate to longer works until I was quite a bit older. My first novel was published in my 30s, my first textbook in my 40s, and then this book is also in my 40s. This is neither a novel nor a textbook. It's actually supposed to go in the business section of the bookstore, but I think it could just as easily go in the self-help section, depending on what it is that you want to do with it and where it is that you want to apply the skill set. But yeah, writing has been a passion my entire life. And I come by it honestly, and so do my kids. My
Mhm.
14-year-old daughter just turned 14, has already written 3 novels. So
Wow,
it's a family of writers and
that's
artists.
incredible. Yeah. Wow. Just to see that it's already, kind of catching on with your daughter. She must be so proud of you to see everything that you've done.
I'm so proud of all of my children. And honestly, I am constantly worried about, and maybe a lot of you guys are too, and I don't think this is a show about parenting, but I will say again, a lot of these concerns also translate to the
Mhm.
teams that you're leading and managing at work in terms of leadership. This idea that without this suffering, what kind of growth can there be, right? This idea that there's a kind of a privilege. We certainly have this concern about the next gen entering the workforce
Mhm.
of, they were accustomed to a certain way of things, and how are they going to be in the quote unquote real world? And we have the same concern about the people we're responsible for at home domestically, right? Our children or whoever else it might be who's vulnerable and depends on us. Is what do I do, right, as the leader or as the person who's responsible in order to train this generation in resilience while still making sure that they have the empathy and the compassion and the things that make us inherently human and enable us to actually enjoy being alive and having relationships.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you seem super, super driven. Is it difficult for you to tackle as much as you do with having kids and, trying to do it all?
You know what it is? It's so funny. I was actually just talking about this with someone today. Is for me, the ongoing struggle is always, when will it be enough? And I don't know if you've got listeners, viewers who relate to this, right? People who have already achieved a little bit in their life, but they're not done yet. And there's something beautiful about not being done yet. I actually enjoy that. I enjoy living for the next step in my professional growth. At the same time, there's some aspect of me that thinks, well, when will it be enough? Because people who are really exceptionally driven, who constantly want to accomplish more, it doesn't matter that they wrote a book 5 years ago, or it doesn't matter that they graduated, cum laude 10 years ago. It's what have I done lately? Right. And especially in this modern world of social media, what do I have to post about is literally an anxiety and a concern. And for me, that's the core of my struggle. The daily pressure, I'm very comfortable with. I actually don't struggle with that. All of my anxiety comes from how do I eventually in my life find the peace and the acceptance to just be. But for now, I'm loving the ride. I actually view it sort of similar to the adventure travel, and also similar to the adventure travel. It is full of me falling flat on my face in the mud. And, literally when we paraglided, one of my kids, she landed in a field of daffodils. I landed in a field of rocks with some cow poop. And so I literally landed in poop. Okay. So that is, I got to have this incredible, phenomenal experience, but I landed in literal shit.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to swear on your show, but that is what it was. And so, so I just kind of liken my professional path to that. There's a lot of times when that is the experience, and it depends on the approach you have. And I think that it's first of all, it's okay to be upset at that and to be bothered by, and the reason I bring it as an example is because of the perpetual stink, right, for hours. And that's one of the things with failure that people don't talk about, is it's not just the moment you experience it. It continues to impact you. It kind of leaves that resonating stench, right, and stink. And if you could find a way to either laugh at it or just jump again, right? You don't have to like it. You don't have to be comfortable with it. Just know that this is already done, right? Where I land with my paraglide is not something that is a choice that is up to me, but I can choose whether I'm going to jump again or do the next plunge, whatever that plunge might be, right? Or not. And I have consistently chosen to jump again. And again, that doesn't mean I've escaped unharmed. Sometimes I do, but usually no. But overall, it's a hell of a ride. And we have this thing in Stoicism. It's called memento mori. Are you familiar with the concept of memento mori?
I'm not. Please share.
Okay, I would love to. And maybe you've got some Stoicism fans in the audience who are. The concept of memento mori literally translated means you will die. And it sounds really dark. It sounds really dark. I promise it's not. It's actually incredibly uplifting.
Cool. It's only uphill from here.
You guys are like, this person is a very strange way of looking at good things in the world. So here's the thing. Even though the literal translation is you will die, the more accurate translation is you're not dead yet. And so the idea is that the impermanence of life, the fact that it will end, combined with the fact that it has not yet ended, right, enables you to see things in a remarkably clear perspective when you are otherwise caught in a dizzy, as we all are, by the punches that life throws at us, right?
Yeah.
You get punched in the face and gut punched in the stomach, and you're caught in that moment. And remembering that you're not dead yet, and that you get to live, but not forever, right? Not forever. And that's exactly what gives this incredible meaning and puts this weight on every moment to help you prioritize the weight you want to attach to whatever struggle you just faced, right? In the big scheme of life, me landing in a field of rocks and poop off the Andes is ridiculous, but also funny, but not deserved. I didn't do anything wrong, right? There's no reason why that should have happened to me, but that was out of my control. right?
Mhm.
And so what I can do is I can shake myself off, maybe even laugh at it, grow from it, right? And move
Mhm.
on to the next step and evaluate and think, is there even some aspect that I could have controlled to have changed this situation? If not, try to let it go. So that's how memento mori plays in. And it's this really incredible concept. Actually, the Stoics had these coins with a skull on them that say memento mori. Sometimes they have an hourglass on them to
Okay.
represent that it's still going and also it won't go forever. And also, you don't know where in the hourglass you are. I mean, you might think on average, I live X number of years. I'm a reasonably healthy person. There's a lot of things I can do to keep myself healthy, and I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
True.
So I don't really know, right? There's some things that no matter what I do are going to be out of my control. And that would be among them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really deep. So let me ask you this: what was your career trajectory like whenever you first came into the United States and you started working your way up? Was it difficult for you, or tell me a little bit about the transition in between stages?
I really like this question. It was definitely bumpy. So I've always been driven, and to be really specific, I've been driven to, and again, y'all forgive me for being candid and honest, but I was driven to make money because I grew up
Mhm.
with not a lot. And just the idea of waking up in the morning, I don't need much, but waking up in the morning and I don't have to be cold
Yeah.
because I have to keep the temperature real low in the house.
Mhm.
That kept me going to a large extent. So that was always a motivation. But I was also so incredibly dedicated to the society that gave back to me. First Canada and then America. I moved to the States for law school and have stayed in this country ever since. And it's got tons of warts, man, tons of warts. But I'll
Mhm.
tell you, I'll take it any day compared to the one I was born in. And I always have wanted to give back and do something more and do something more than just earn an income, right? Leave a sort of a legacy, a true kind of a leadership. And so that motivation's always been there, but I didn't know how or what. A natural step for me, because of who I am and what I love, was to study neuropsychology and philosophy in undergraduate so that I could better understand human beings. This is my obsession. Then, in order to convert that into something that would make a stable amount of money and be able to provide for my family, I went to law school, which of course makes a lot of sense. Ended up loving law school, ended up loving the practice of law because you get to be practiced every day in getting to know the people around you, the judges, the juries, the opposing counsel, the counterpart, your client, whoever it might be. And you get to sort of play in this space where you get to think a lot and also have to constantly be responsible for controlling your emotions, which again, we're going back to Stoicism,
Mhm.
right? And this is something, a challenge that I greatly enjoyed. So I started practicing law and I partnered at my firm. I made equity partner at my firm. It was a pretty large firm. And I practiced for almost 20 years, 17 and a half years. And at that point, I had bought my freedom. And those of you who grew up with nothing know what I mean. At some point, you buy your freedom. Doesn't really mean you can retire, but you are now free to pursue more passionate work related projects, right? So now I get to write and I get to teach. I teach law at Northwestern Law School and also negotiations and strategy, et cetera, at Northwestern. And it's such a thrilling and exciting life because I'm working as hard as I ever did. But I am no longer, because I don't need to be, motivated by the financial aspect. Again, not judging that. I was for 20 years when I needed it. And I am now at a place where that just doesn't have to be a factor for me, which is a gift and a blessing.
Mhm.
And so that's where I am now. I'm sitting pretty at the top over here, just reading my books, writing my books, and
Mhm.
getting to speak with my students and coming on great shows like yours and having terrific conversations.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. Um, Especially because it seems like you started all the way at the bottom, and it's like nothing better than the American dream is to see somebody who genuinely has a passion and a drive be able to succeed, and like that's something like right off the bat talking to you, it's just like I can tell you're super driven, and just for people listening, what advice would you have to them if they feel like they're at the bottom of the barrel? They might be the low man of the totem pole at their company, but there is a way to work up. Like, what kind of advice would you have as far as working your way up for somebody?
Sure. Well, I will tell you step number one, and this is, I don't mean this as a plug, but do invest in my book. It's affordable. You can buy it. The audiobook is even less expensive and has all of these exercises. If you don't want to go there, just start studying Stoicism on your own and empathy on your own as well. And think about how you can combine these two together to gain power in the life that you have now. Because I promise you that no one thing is going to get you the win in life, right? It's going to be a combination of factors and effort over a great deal of time, right? People don't really win the lottery. Even the people who win the lottery don't win the lottery. They have miserable lives on average, right? Following their lottery wins. But it will help you gain strength in a situation where you were otherwise powerless. And what it does is it gives you the confidence and the capability and the knowledge and the tool set to figure out, okay, I'm at the bottom of this barrel. Here are all the things that are out of my control, out of my power, because guess what? External power dynamics exist. They're not your imagination, right? They're actually playing their forces on your body. But also, I exist. The space between stimuli and response, that's me in that space. That's you in that space. And you get to decide what to do in that space. And these are your thoughts, your emotions, your judgments, your intentions. These are things no one but you can control. Other people can influence them, but they can't control them. You control them, right? And knowing what it is you can and can't control is the best first step. And then I would say, and this is where the empathy part comes in, start building alliances by getting to know the people around you who can help you propel upwards. And build these alliances and appeal to these individuals based on what you know about them. And make sure that you're building relationships, not just manipulating for the sake of rising up in the corporate world. And what I would say is value relationships above mere career growth. Because not only in the long run will it help you grow professionally and increase your power in life, no matter where you started out in the barrel, but it also just really feels good at the end of the night when you go to sleep. You feel like you lived a day of integrity and values, and you were true to yourself, and you feel good about yourself. You're not just more powerful, you are closer to the person you want to be.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's good advice.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: when you were dreaming about writing books, was novels always like your dream when it came to writing, or these type of books? What was your overall?
No, my dream was always a book like Stoic Empathy. My dream was always to write philosophy to help people increase their capabilities and their power in their life. My book is written in a very storytelling format, right? A lot of the tools I teach, a lot of the lessons I communicate, I do through stories. So I love storytelling, and that was always going to be a component of what I did. But trying to understand other people and how I can be of service to them and help them elevate to the next level has always been my greatest passion. And it's also just a really cool puzzle to solve, right?
Yeah.
It's, and if you like puzzles, if you like mental puzzles, and you go into this situation and you've got 7 seemingly disconnected things, and you figure out how to connect them and how to weave a theme through them. And then you get to figure out how to create a story to tell about them, or find a true story to tell about them. And then you get to tell that story, and then you get to help people. I mean, it's really kind of an amazing privilege to have.
Yeah, that is incredible. And something that I think about quite often, because I've talked to a number of people that have written books. It's on my bucket list to do one day. I haven't ventured that far yet, but hundreds of years after we're dead and gone, our words are going to still live.
They're going to
You
be
know what I mean?
around.
Somebody's going to pick up that book, and it's like you're sitting there talking to them in the room, telling them all about stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
your stories always live on. It's incredible to me.
It is really true. It is a form of immortality, writing is.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, here's the thing about writing. If you or anyone else in your audience is thinking about doing it and writing a book, all you need is 1 page a day. And in a year, you have a book. It's crap. Okay. That's okay. The next year, you edit it. And now you have a good book. Okay.
That
two
makes a lot.
years, a page a day. Everybody can do a page a day or 7 pages a week. It's not that hard. You can do it. I promise anybody can do it. And maybe your first book won't be your masterpiece. Maybe it will, by the way, but maybe it won't. But maybe your fourth one will. And that's honestly not really the point. I don't think the books my 13-year-old daughter, who's 14 now, is writing are going to be the masterpiece of her life. But
Yeah.
the fact that she was able to compile and composite a
Yeah.
large work that
Mhm.
she could keep in her head hundreds of pages of material
Yeah.
and then go back and reference back. That's an extraordinary thing to have done. Doesn't matter if anybody else reads it, doesn't matter if anybody publishes it. It obviously, the more, if people do consume it, you can impact more people. But that's a separate issue. Having that impact, which I love and I am truly honored by, is a separate issue from the actual accomplishment of the writing, right?
Mhm.
Anybody can write a book. And Lord knows in today's world, a lot of brilliant minds go unrecognized. So don't hang it on that. Just write. Just write. That's
That's
it.
great advice.
Yeah.
That's very good. I mean, a page a day, yeah, that seems doable.
Right?
Like just for reference, do you know how many like words a page a day is?
I would say a page can't be more than, I don't know, 700 words, 500 words, maybe five to 700 words, depending on how you space it.
Mhm.
So a page is, if you were to read it out, it would be about a minute and a half to 3 minutes, depending on how slowly you talk, you would
Okay.
read that page.
Okay.
So honestly, even if you just dictate and then feed it to AI and have AI write it out for you,
Mhm.
just talk for 10 minutes a day and have AI compile it for you. Create create the book and then go through and edit. And you can go, and you don't have to wait to the end, obviously,
Mhm.
right? You can go back and touch things up and relate to things that also you might forget things, and that's okay. That's why it's written down. You go back, you
Yeah.
double check. I've had points in my life where I've actually taken every section of my book and I've drawn a picture of it, not a good picture, just stick figures on index cards. And then I would lay out all the index cards on my living room floor so I can see a visual flow of my book, because it's so difficult to keep track of exactly what you said 150 pages ago, right?
Mhm.
And so there are these incredible tricks that you'll learn as you go along the way, and whatever works for you. But yeah, that's really not a lot. You can do it. It's
Yeah.
like a third of a TED Talk, fourth of a TED Talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems super manageable when you put it that way. Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a feeling you're going to inspire a future author, just through this knowledge.
I
Like
hope so.
that's powerful. Just the encouragement too to like, hey, just 10 minutes a day or
Right.
however long it is, just get in there, get your page and you
Yeah.
know.
And you guys, I'm 47, so I'm pushing 50, and it's been my lifelong dream to write. And I finally got the publishing deal that I have been wanting my entire life. So
Awesome.
that is also, you don't stop just because you don't, it's just like anything else, right? It's just when we pour so much into a single project, we have particular expectations of it. But instead, we need to view the project as a series of steps along the path to success, right? Whether the project is building a company, climbing a mountain, or writing a book, you can't get to the top right at the beginning. It's just, you could, it's possible, but it's unlikely. And it's an unrealistic expectation to set for yourself. What you can expect of yourself is that you keep climbing and you don't give up and you don't start walking down. That's it.
Let me ask you this: where can people find your book? And
Ah, okay. Well, it's everywhere. So Amazon obviously is the easiest, and if
Mhm.
you guys want to hit that, click that button and have it come to your house. I'm not going to judge you. If you have a favorite bookstore, please feel free to go to your favorite local bookstore and ask them for the book. If they don't have it, they'll order it. I think Target will have it. Thrift Books has it, so it should be easily found. Stoic Empathy is the name of the book. And I would truly, truly be honored if I was able to communicate with your viewers through my work. If y'all want to reach out to me, I am on LinkedIn. Heads up, it might take me a couple weeks to respond to anything on LinkedIn, but I do eventually get to all of them. Just sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. So feel free to reach out. And then you can also find me on my website, which is my impossible to spell and pronounce name. So it's a very good name for a website to choose. Like, hey, why don't you choose a website name that nobody can say or spell? But it is www.sherminkruse.com. But if you just Google Stoic Empathy, it will pop up and it'll tell you all the ways that you can purchase the book, the audiobook, or the Kindle.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to promote today?
Oh, I appreciate it. There's nothing else really that I'd like to promote other than urge all of the listeners and viewers, first of all, to check out this episode on YouTube if you can, so you can check out Anthony's actual card collection, which I got him to show us a brief glimpse of, and I feel really successful now just because I've accomplished that pivotal feat. But I really want to encourage all of you guys to, no matter where you're starting out, no matter how powerless you are, no, it's not your imagination. There are external power dynamics pushing against you. And, right? Yes, and you also exist. And your power also exists. And you carry that power with you into every situation. And especially if you're living on this side of the world, right? Again, not perfect, tons of flaws, right? But you've got a shot every day. Plenty of people are, dying, drowning on boats to get here. And there's a reason for that. So congratulations on listening to this podcast to begin with, because if you're already listening to this podcast, you're interested in growing professionally. And I really hope that you were able to get a couple things out of this session. And I look forward to maybe interacting with you through my writing.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time today. This has been wonderful. And guys, make sure you go and check her out, get her book, and make sure you go check out Huddle Card Collection on YouTube, check out Picksburgh on YouTube. And until the next episode, may God bless you. We hope you take it easy. I'm from the city. I'm from the city. The city is. I'm from the city. The city is.